In this video, I'm going to be reading from and commenting on a booklet I wrote in the 1990s called Going Forth with the Gods. The topic is journeys to sacred sites and the archetypes, how these two integrate into your own personal journeys. Now, it's emphasizing physical journeys in this particular pamphlet, but I wish to stress that it's really also about inner journeys. So we're going to look at it from all these perspectives, and I'm going to, comment on this and bring it kind of up to date in that way. Now, I'm not reading the whole booklet. It's short, but it's not that short. And I'm taking two specific chapters. Actually, I think it's the first and the last. But the booklet has a lot more in it, even though it is short. And you can access this booklet if you subscribe to my Vault of Thoth, which I have a link to in the info box below. There is also a lot more in the Vault of Thoth, about 19 years worth to be exact. And so now, we begin with a journey of initiation. What is meant by a journey of initiation? First, we need to decipher the truth of the term initiation. For this, we look to the grand initiator, Thoth Hara, as the master architect of the Great Pyramid, and that was when he was Thoth Muzurud, and then he continued as Thoth Racemus of Afra. He stands at the threshold of innermost passage into the sacred rites of the soul. As the archetype, or representing the archetype, around his neck is the seven-jeweled key of Thoth, a template for the organization of the eternal and cleansing fire of the Ishward light. That is Eshyouhod, Ishward light. This is the cleansing fire. In Thoth's right hand, extended before his heart, arises three flames, the threefold flame of love, power, and wisdom. His left hand is raised holding the Ankh of life, which is the regeneration of spirit as it passes through matter and reconciles its return path to the divine. He beckons to the initiate to enter through the threshold and accept innermost passage into the divine fire of rebirth and awakening. True initiation, as it was given in the ancient days of Mu, Atlantis, and early Egypt, was a path of receiving light mathematical codes, or the language of spiritual light, into the light body of the individual, which then filtered down into the sacred centers of the body and soul as that initiate accepted deep inner exposure to his/her own divinity. A journey of initiation, then, can be a voyage either solely of spirit or of both physical and spiritual nature, and can include a journey through sacred centers and temples designed by the high initiates of the past, present, and future. Through this journey, one enters layers or levels of ascent into the higher vibrations of light that contain the keys and codes which will quicken the initiate in his/her own starlit flight into greater oneness with the cosmos. The only focus of such a sacred initiatic physical journey should be to move into these planetary fields of light in order to participate exclusively in the divine format which has been designed to embed the patterns of living light into the etheric bodies of the initiate. Thus, a journey of initiation is a specific path of receipt. On the physical level of the journey, only those sites which possess the correct light code links for the initiation at hand should be entered into on the voyage. Time should be allowed at each location to fully receive their encoded phases of initiation and the light of mathematical codes inherent to the process. A sufficient amount of integration time must be allotted after each location, whereby the individual participant can be in a quiet meditative state and not be bombarded with sights and sounds which have frequencies that register outside the envelope of the designated initiatory path. In making a decision to embark upon a physical spiritual journey of initiation rather than a metaphysical tour of sacred sites, one would need to investigate as to whether or not these above principles are being adhered to if that journey is being conducted by someone other than yourself. Once your physical course has been decided, proceed then to the arena of preparing body, mind, and soul for the journey ahead. In the ancient temples, greater initiation was reserved for those who had undergone many preceding levels of lesser initiation. In the current time, souls are gathering to move into direct encounter with the greater. They have incarnated through many levels of lower initiation and some through higher levels, yet this age is the deciding moment when they are being asked to integrate it all in the now. Thus, through what Thoth calls the New Earth initiations, the candidate either chooses or rejects himself. But this cannot be decided through personal ego. It must come from an inward calling to be true to the greater nature abiding within. I am now going to be reading from the chapter that's called Going Forth with the Gods, which is the title of the entire booklet. In working with the sacred, one enters the realm of what we call here mentors and archetypes. Mentors are all manner of ensouled or angelic beings of light who are in your space to assist you on your journey. Archetypes are somewhat more difficult to comprehend in our way of thinking. There are various levels of archetypes. The more mundane definition might be any composition of attributes which is identified in a specific symbology, and further repeatedly accessed in a determinate focus of many minds. Under this umbrella of definition, such divergent forms as Mickey Mouse and Marilyn Monroe could both qualify as an archetypal presentation. But as we move deeper into the presence, which encompasses the science of archetypification, we find much more ancient and powerful archetypal beings. We must use the word beings loosely in regard to our understanding, but they are a form of sentience which has been created in various ways. To further clarify, Thoth has aided me in putting together a basic definitive of these archetypes. 1. Mundane archetypes, non-sentient. Any label which many people can identify, which is non-living, such as a popular product or value. These are the lowest, most often violated archetypes. They are usually a creation of mass planetary consciousness and thus inertia, and many may even carry strong negative charges, although some can be very positive. The second is mortal archetypes, associated with living or once living human or animal beings, developed as a result of the lifetime of that being. Now this is where we have Marilyn Monroe or even somebody as awful as Hitler. But not Jesus Christ, Buddha, or Thoth. For although they once lived in the mortal realm, the presence of their archetype was created before their births. I just realized I've been saying archetype all this time, and it's really more archetype, so I'm going to try to correct that. So now we continue with immortal archetypes. Here we find Jesus, Buddha, and a host of other once living persons such as Osiris and Thoth. While human beings fill these slots at one time, the archetypes they personified and built upon were created by illumined, non-incarnated souls long before these persons lived. Most of the immortals are of a highly refined spiritual light, although some have been turned by powerfully negative forces. These forces fed from the fears of the sentient consciousness of this planet. Lastly are the primordial archetypes, the most ancient and removed from our conception of what is. These are sentient archetypes which have never attached to ensouled beings. Their consciousness is omnipresent and not consigned to a persona or personalization. This consciousness was created through angelic resonance or sounding in the creational fires of the universe. Some of these primordials were drawn to this planet through the Earth's own creational resonance, and since then they have been mutable with our planetary consciousness. As an example of such an archetype is Sekhmet. She has also been expressed as Ishtar, Inanna, and Kali, and is revealed in several other cultural formats. Yet they all represent the same primordial archetype. Most earth-descended primordials are not known to us, for they have not survived the pen of historians. Primordial archetypes are largely a power, a force of a specific qualification. To broaden the stroke of the brush in painting you a picture of a primordial, we will profile the most dynamic one of our world, Gaia, or the Earth herself. Within the planet resides a primordial being. Her body is the planet we live upon. Now, I'm going to pause here. This next sentence that I'm going to read to you, I have a more expanded understanding of it now. So I'm going to read the sentence, and then I'm going to give you my expanded understanding. We may speak poetically of the soul of the earth, but in fact, we are her soul, and she our archetypal vessel into spirit. Now, I sort of agree with that still, but from the Thothic understanding that he's fleshed into me since I wrote this, he refers to the actual soul of Gaia, soul of this planet, as Gaia. So when he's saying Gaia, he's referring to the soul of the earth. And when he's just saying earth, he's referring to the whole planet. That may be just a semantic difference there so that he can qualify this for us. But also, he has spoken to me since of that when a planet is a living being, it isn't souled. It has a kind of soul that we don't really understand, but it's brought into the planet. And yet, when that enters the planet, that envelope, it accepts all the souls of the earth. So we become part of her soul. That's the way I now see it from a more expanded view that Thoth has given me since I wrote this manual. My evolution is involved in all of this as well, and being able to understand what I receive and flesh it in a little more and give more depth to it. And that's what I'm doing here. To continue, when summoning or working with the primordial archetype, one must first have clarity in their intent and a measure of balance with their duality. By there, I mean the individual working with the primordial. If not, the ancient creative forces of these beings will devour the personal shell we fondly call our identity. This would be a positive transformation if that soul were spiritually evolved to the level of accepting such a leap into the void. If not, it could be a seriously disorienting experience. Thus, it is best to interact with primordials with the intent that you are not wishing to draw the whole being into your experience, but only that portion which yourself can properly integrate at the time. As with all sentient archetypes, intent is the program manager of the cosmic web in which they dwell. And now, how to work with the mentors and archetypes. There are many ways one may enter the matrix of interaction with mentors and archetypes. What is given here is a suggested format through which you may create a link in that matrix and allow your higher self to take you further from that point. With a mentor, it is a matter of relaxation and summoning. First, you relax your physical system so that you can receive communion from the radiant ones in a deep level of your cellular being and not just in the mental, emotional body. Then think of the higher lords and feel your love for them and theirs for you. Once the heart is singing with this light, you simply call upon the mentors. Do not qualify your need at first. Allow an association to build, to move through your inner experience. Then when you feel this bond take place, you may state your request if indeed you have one. But be sure you are prepared to receive the help for which you are asking, without the personal lens of qualification you may have applied to it. Mentors of light will always guide you toward the essence of the matter and not the outer form. Before calling upon an archetype, relaxation is again important. Once ready for the actual summoning, you should think of the matrix involved as a temple with a specific entry code and structure. As you come to the door of the temple, you request entrance. Once inside, observe signs that await you. Archetypes are by nature hidden in their full expression from the soul of the seeker. Do not press the issue for further disclosure. Instead, observe the signs and symbols. If you are not too adept at visualizing, feelings can be just as communicative. Once you have integrated to a degree with the temple, you may see or feel an aspect of the actual archetype itself. When an archetype is presented to you, open your being and take that archetype or archetypal aspect within you so you become it. Here is where your personal identity may become a bit slippery. Ask that you be able to maintain both your higher self identity and what is being brought to you by the archetype in equal balance and parity. Lower self-identifications will quite possibly fall away, at least during and possibly for some time after the merging. It is not advisable to try this at first with primordials. Begin instead with the immortals. In doing so, the soul entity who is incorporated into the immortal archetype will very often help you into a smooth merging with its archetype. With the primordials, there is no soul being to help you, only the power and vastness of the universal energy form you are interacting with. Now, I will qualify that by saying we always have access to our angels, our higher beings that help us, and your mentors. But I'm speaking here specifically, and Thoth is speaking here specifically of the power of the primordial, and just be respectful of it. This mutable state of oneness with the archetype should last no more than a few moments. At that point, the archetype moves through you and into a field in which it takes with it that part of you that needs expression in its realm. It is then that you will become more involved with your own personal experience, in which you may have revelations on many levels of awareness. When the archetype is merging with you, do not form an attachment to it or to its definition. Simply embrace and release. In order for true synergy between an ensouled mortal and an immortal or primordial archetype to take place, the Adam Kadmon template within the human form will become the interfacing mechanism. The Adam Kadmon is the original universal prototype for the human race. After the fall of the Adamic race, the human form was greatly altered, not so much in appearance, but in light-engendered substance. But humanity still maintains the program codes for the template of this sacred human being. Thus, it is through this template that the archetypes link into our divinity. There are certain points upon the human body where this interfacing occurs. These links form specific archetypal workings. The sacred magic of the Atlanteans and Egyptians, among others, contained a highly defined science concerning these interfaces and how to open them and for what purposes. Most of these procedures are not for the uninitiated. What has been presented to you here concerning the higher initiations with the archetypes is but a mere slice of the whole apple, yet it will hopefully serve to give you an overview of the essence and nature of archetypes, both universally and in our lives. This concludes the reading of the text. I do wish to add to this topic. Now in 2023, as I deliver this into video form, we have even more changes going on in regard to humanity's urgency to receive these codes of light, not only in traveling to sacred sites, but in all aspects of life. So it would certainly be inclusive of going to sacred sites and also just being a sacred site within and connecting to Gaia from your living room or your altar, and how you are placing yourself in the field of the ancient archetypal expressions of this planet. Because archetypes, as has been stated here, are not just symbolic. They are living experiences of spirit, and you're part of that experience. So, as you delve into this practice of connecting, do so with reverence, with respect, but also understanding that your spirit is part of this greater oneness.